Debate. Senator Cordy.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Senators, I rise to speak in support of Motion 28, and I do so on behalf of my Progressive colleagues. And on this issue, we are unanimous. We support this motion, and in fact, we would support extending the motion until the end of June at this time. But we do agree to proceed with this motion as it is today, but wish to reevaluate the COVID situation and the hybrid measures again before the end of April. Honourable Senators, while I'm keen to return to fully in-person Senate sittings and committee meetings, I'm also well aware that some senators are immune-compromised or have immune-compromised family members. We should be sympathetic to our more vulnerable colleagues who don't feel comfortable participating in the chamber at this time. They don't want to risk their health or the health of their loved ones. We must also be cognizant that if we continue in a hybrid setting, we are better placed to have the infrastructure in place in the event of another wave. Ottawa's Medical Officer of Health just yesterday warned that the level of COVID here in Ottawa is rising, with the level in wastewater rising dramatically in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Dr. Etches said in her special statement, and I quote, "The pandemic is not over, and we are currently experiencing another resurgence," unquote. In my home province of Nova Scotia, 5 members out of 55 members of the Legislative Assembly now have COVID. The legislature is currently discussing a move to hybrid sittings, and there are concerns because it cannot happen instantly while the legislature is sitting. Given these obvious warnings, we must keep in mind that it is easier to maintain hybrid until the end of June than it would be to convert back to hybrid if COVID cases rise significantly here in Ottawa or in our own provinces and territories. Finally, I don't think I'm telling any secrets to say that many of us in this chamber are in the age group that is more susceptible to poor COVID outcomes than our members of Parliament. It is also interesting to me that the other place continues with their hybrid model until the end of June. And my question is, why shouldn't we do the same here in the Senate? Hybrid settings, I guess, do not prevent anyone from attending Senate sittings in person. If a senator wants to be here, as most of us are, they can do so. But in-person sittings only at this time will certainly prevent some of our colleagues, those who are immune-compromised or with immune-compromised family members, from being able to fulfill their responsibilities as senators. To be clear, hybrid sitting should not be a long-term occurrence. We all want to be in Ottawa, in person, with our colleagues, in this chamber and in committees. But I do not want to negatively impact the health and well-being of my colleagues, nor Senate staff to do so. I believe it is absolutely essential to remember that these decisions not only affect senators, but they affect our staff and Senate staff as well. I will support the current motion and look forward to reevaluating the Senate's position at the end of April. Thank you.
On debate, Senator Patterson.
I'd like to ask Senator Cordy a question, if she'd take one. Senator Cordy, you asked why we should not follow the House of Commons in continuing hybrid until the end of June. And I would say to you that the problem we have in the Senate is that, unlike the House of Commons, we clearly do not have the adequate resources to support our committees while we're in the hybrid mode. And you understand those resources are interpreters, technical operators, camera operators, which are limiting us to one committee meeting per week. So I'd like to ask you, would you agree that until we get adequate resources to allow our committees to do this important work that Senate committees do. We should not be embracing the hybrid motion because it's crippling our ability to do our committee work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you've raised a really good point, and we all would love to be sitting in our committee meetings. For those of us who normally sit twice a week, it's now down to once a week. We all understand that, but you also have to recognize that a number of our staff have developed COVID as a result of working in circumstances with a lot of people around. And we know that there are senators, indeed, who have contracted COVID, whether that's in the Senate chamber or whether it's getting on an airplane and flying to Ottawa or whether it's when they're at home. We don't know that, and it's very challenging to figure out where the contacts have come from when you've been on an airplane or in an airport or even in the Senate chamber as a whole. So it would be great if we could sit for committees could sit twice a week, but I don't go back on what I believe that we should at least until the end of June or until the end of June. But in this case, but I'm willing to support this motion. But for me personally, I think the end of June would be when we could better make an evaluation, and that we should, in fact, be going along with what the House. I don't often say this, that we should go along with the House of Commons, but in this case, I believe that the motion should be until the end of June.
Senator Gold?
Take a question.
Certainly.
Thank you. Thank you for your speech, Senator Cordy. As some of you may know, in the month of March alone, there have been 23 cases of COVID in the parliamentary precinct, 12 in the Senate family, 7 PPS and 4 PSPC. As we all know, the parliamentary precinct very much operates in an integrated fashion. So when cases are compiled and reported, they include all of those that I just mentioned, including, of course, employees of the House. So given this integration, Senator, do you think it would make sense for the Senate to transition back to in-person before the House does? Would this not just simply be increasing the risk, not for ourselves, only for ourselves, but for the entire precinct?
Senator Cordy?
I absolutely agree that it would be best if we follow the House in this matter, and that we would continue hybrid until the end of June. The numbers that you've presented to us today are startling, not surprising, but they are startling, and certainly gives one cause to pause, and suggests that if you wish to be here in person, you can be in person. But if you are immune compromised, or if you are really nervous about going to an airport and going on an airplane, then you can certainly fulfill your functions as a senator by hybrid motions. And, you know, I spoke to you earlier and told you that 5 MPs in Nova Scotia have developed hybrid. That's out of 55 members of the legislature. And in Nova Scotia, the Premier, Conservative Premier Tim Houston said, and I'll quote him, "We're in a pandemic and you've got to be willing to roll with it." And then he said, very strongly in favor of a hybrid session to make sure that every voice, every Nova Scotian has a chance to be heard through their MLA. And I would say the same thing would be true in Ottawa, that every senator has a responsibility to work on behalf of their constituents in their provinces, and every senator should have the ability to do that in the middle of a pandemic. And the numbers that I'm seeing, and my staff in working on this looked at the numbers, and the numbers are rising whether we like it or we don't like it. You know, it's a pandemic, and I think that we should, in this case, follow the House of Commons and be till the end of June. Having said that, I will support this motion, but my wish would be that it would be the end of June, and I would look forward to revisiting this at the end of April and making adjustments if necessary at that time.
Senator Lankin?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Cordy, you'll take another question, I hope?
Yes, I will. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I just want to indicate I agree with everything you said, including the comments that most of us want to get back to in-person sitting in 2 committee meetings a week. I'm concerned that even without hybrid sittings, that our resources are so stretched. And one of the things that concerns me is that there is a cyclical argument of, well, we'll go to April, and then after that, maybe to June. And there is a hope being held out that we may, within the next couple of months, fix this problem of resources. I wonder if you could tell me if you would support an initiative where we sit down with CEBA and we attempt to seriously address these issues and not wait until we know if we're coming back to full sitting or not. Thank you.
Cordy.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you very much for that. And I couldn't verbalize it any better than you've already done, so I think it's really important. Resources have been stretched before COVID, and they're stretched now. Our staff, our office staff and the staff, Senate staff, have been going above and beyond. And, I'm sure that exhaustion sometimes leads you to be more vulnerable to picking up COVID or in colds, flus, anything when you're exhausted. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the staff, Senate staff, and our office staffs for going above and beyond. And you have raised a really good point that maybe we should have a working group looking at resources on, we're looking now and people are, Senator Gold gave us the numbers of people within our institution who have been getting COVID. But I think that we should certainly look at it and see where we need people, where we have to hire more staff. And thank you very much for raising that.
Senator Bovee.
Thank you, Speaker. Would Senator Cordy take one more question, please?
I will. Thank you.
Senator Cordy, you mentioned that the hybrid sittings allow those who are immunocompromised to fulfill their responsibilities and take part in the chamber. And you've talked about the hybrid continuing till the end of June, and I certainly agree with that, especially at a time that, would you agree that as the direct flights from our cities have not yet been put back in place, and I from Winnipeg, mine's not going to be back in place till June, that increases the occasion for some of us, as I have, to contract COVID. And the hybrid sitting has allowed me to take part this week, which I otherwise would not have. And though I'd much rather be in the chamber, as you know, would you agree that hybrid sittings do allow those who do contract it to continue to be active in chamber deliberations?
Cordy.
Thank you. And yes, I did speak about those who are immune compromised. I did not speak about those who may have contracted COVID and who are able to still take part by sitting at home and not going out of their house to spread it, but are still able to, if provided that they're not in a serious condition in bedridden or even in the hospital, but those who are able can sit down in a room in their house and take part in it. And you spoke about the lack of direct flights. I think all of us who have to fly to get here understand that. Flying to Nova Scotia used to be very easy with a choice of 5 or 6 direct flights a day. Now there are 2 direct flights a day, and you end up if you wait until the next day, for me, it's either 6 a.m. in the morning, which doesn't lead for a very productive day when I arrive at home, and that's not a direct flight, or getting home late on Friday afternoon and heading back to Ottawa either on Sunday night or Monday morning. And I've spoken to one person who has to take 3 planes to get to Ottawa and could probably drive faster to Ottawa if she wished to do so. But you're absolutely right. There are a lot of things happening during the pandemic times, and lack of convenient flight times would certainly be one of them. So thank you for raising that.